Again, good morning, and thank you for being here this morning as we come together as a family here at St. Catherine of Sweden to celebrate this Holy Mass, to celebrate the Eucharist together. And as a parish family here at St. Catherine of Sweden, we welcome home our young people that might be visiting for Christmas or home from college, and in a special way we welcome any visitors. Today, as we celebrate the Feast of the Holy Family, it's each and every one of us, it's our feast day, as we all belong to a family. And I'm thinking of a family that I grew up with, a best friend, James. His family was kind of interesting because of the way his dad ran the family. His dad was retired from the military, and he kind of ran the household like a drill sergeant. And my friend James had a younger brother. They were only a year apart, and they were never allowed to call their dad Dad or Daddy or Father. He said, "I want you to call me Sir." And they were always supposed to address him as Sir, and they would begin a sentence and end it with Sir. If they wanted a glass of milk, they had to say, "Sir, may I have a glass of milk, sir?" And seriously, that's how they went through life. And as God would have it, a little girl was brought into their family. We were about 8 years old when they had a little girl come into the family. And I can remember, as we were probably about 12, we were riding in the car, and she was just 3 or 4 at that time, and she was sitting in the back seat. And we were riding along, and his dad was driving, and his sister put her hand up on the dad's neck, and she said, "Sir, I love you, sir." And from that point on, those kids were allowed to call him Dad or Daddy. The sir was no longer involved. That little girl touched his heart. My dear family, as we come together today, we celebrate the Feast of the Holy Family. And did you hear the opening prayer? The opening prayer said that all of us could imitate the Holy Family, practicing the virtues of family life and living our lives with the gift of charity. Practicing the virtues of family life and living our lives with the gift of charity. And a lot of people have said to me, "Father, how can we do that? There's no way that we even relate to the Holy Family." And I'll point out, Joseph was celibate, Mary was a virgin, and Jesus was God. How could we even relate to that? And yeah, that's true, but what's important is that they kept God as the focus of their lives. The beautiful gospel that we just heard on this feast, the Gospel of Luke, it has Jesus and Mary and Joseph going for this annual festival. And they were returning from Jerusalem when Mary and Joseph noticed that Jesus was missing. Now, can you imagine how scared they felt? They were given the responsibility of taking care of God, and they lost him. Can you imagine it? They lost God. And what was going through their minds and their hearts? And for all of you who have children or grandchildren or great-grandchildren, just the fear that that would stir up in your hearts if you could not find that little one. Well, they found him. They found him, and he was in the temple. He was in the temple, and we're told that Mary said to him, "Son, why have you done this to us? Your father and I have been looking for you with great anxiety." And he simply said to them, "Why were you looking for me? Did you not know that I must be in my Father's house?" And we're told, but they did not understand what he said to them. They didn't understand it yet. They were all still growing. Now, it's kind of comical to think about this gospel. This is when Jesus is 12 years old, and we don't hear about him again in the scriptures until he's 30. So that's 18 years difference. So for you young people here today, I wonder, did Mary and Joseph ground Jesus for 18 years? Maybe he was grounded for 18 years. That's something to look at. But I think what's more important is to see what the Holy Family did. Where did they find him? At the temple, in the temple. And I think that tells us something powerful. That's where they should have went first, huh? They should have went to the temple first, and they would have found him. And that's so true for us. As we all belong to a holy family, our own families, maybe they're not perfect. They're not the perfect family like we would like them to be. But the thing to remember is to keep Jesus as the center, as the focus. And whenever we have troubles, go to the temple, come to church, and pray before our Lord in the Blessed Sacrament. And maybe we won't understand what he tells us, like Mary and Joseph did not understand, but we can leave this place filled with an incredible peace, knowing that he knows and knowing that he understands, but most importantly, knowing that he wants to help us. We had our one night in Bethlehem celebration before Christmas, and the next day, a young mother from the parish, she was telling me about her 3-year-old son, and she was 8 months pregnant at the time, and he was following her around, and every time she would turn around or any time she'd do something, she'd either step on the kid's toes or she'd trip over him. And she was just so tuckered out from trying to do everything before Christmas. And she said, why don't you just go outside and play in the snow? Or why don't you go play with your toys? Or go do something else? And he said, Mommy, at one night in Bethlehem, we heard a story, and we were told that we're supposed to walk in the footsteps of Jesus. And he said, I can't see Jesus, but I can see you, so I'm going to walk in your footsteps. I'm going to walk in your footsteps. Today we're called to walk in the footsteps of the Holy Family. And maybe our feet don't match, or maybe the stride is too big, or maybe we think we can't match up with them at all. But God is saying we can. We can and we must walk in the footsteps of the Holy Family. And the key is keeping Jesus, keeping God as the center of our family life, and never tiring going to the temple to find him. May God bless us today and every day of our lives, and may the Holy Family intercede for each and every one of our own families, and help us to truly imitate the Holy Family by practicing the virtues of family life and by living a life of charity and love.